Last time, we built out this stacked bar chart with color, and today what I'd like to do is add an interactive color legend to that stacked bar chart. I'm thinking to do it in two phases. Phase one being we just create a color legend on its own where you can click on the elements of the color legend to drive some kind of interaction or filtering later on. We do that first in isolation, and then once we figure out that component, we pull it in to this stacked bar chart example. I'd like to start with this clickable circles example because it already has this notion of interaction built in. I'll start by forking this and call it interactive color legend. Okay, now we can start the AI iteration. What I would like to do is have it so that when we hover over these things in the color legend, it changes immediately. So you don't have to click, but just hovering does the job. So as a first step, let me say, change the interaction from clicking to hovering to set the selected circle. So I send that off. It's doing some edits. Okay, there we go. Now it's not unhovering. So make sure we also catch the mouse out event. There it goes. I see in the code it's still called onCircleClick. Let's rename onCircleClick to something else that's more oriented towards hovering. Okay, great. Now let's align these all vertically. Align all of these circles so that they form a vertical stack in the center. There we go. So we can see in the data, it's just hard-coded here. Let's add another data field like name. And what should this be a color legend for? I don't know. We could do something silly like ABC. And it's so prototypical. Let's just do that. Please add capital letters to the name field of each data element and use letters of the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F. All right, now we have the data there. Oh, it rendered them inside the circles. That's pretty sweet. And it changed the color to invert when you hover. Okay. So this is not what I want for the color legend because the labels could be longer. So let's change it so that the text is not in the middle of the circles, but rather it's off to the right side of the circles based on some configurable spacing between the edge of the circle and the start of the letter, and also just to make them black all the time. Okay, sweet. I kind of want to hover over the text as well. Make it so I can hover over the text as well. So yeah, now hovering over that text element changes it as well. Okay, now let's make them different colors. Make the circles different colors. That's pretty high level. Okay, it's just adding colors to the data. Beautiful colors. But let's change it so we're using D3 color scales because this is going to be used where color scales are present. Refactor this to store the definition of the mapping between names and colors in a D3 ordinal scale using named imports from the top level D3 package. There we go. the behavior should remain the same, and it does. Excellent. But now it's defined in a color scale, which gives us a good point of extension later on, meaning we'll be passing in a color scale from some kind of parent visualization into this color legend component. And I don't love the hovering. I kind of want to just gray out all the ones that are not hovered and not have the inner part of the circle be empty. So let's change the style that we use for the highlighting so that when one of the circles is selected, all of the other circles and the other text elements get grayed out, and the selected circle remains fully opaque. We don't want to change the stroke or the fill or anything for the specific selected circle. You got to be real precise with these AI models. Okay, this is exactly what I was hoping for. So just icing on the cake, let's add some transitions. Can we add some smooth transitions for the hovering using D3 transition? I hope that's specific enough. Yeah, nice. Okay, sweet. This is awesome. This is exactly what I had in mind. So let's do a little code review, see how it turned out. It's Reaction D3, right? So we have this app, we have the hovered circle ID, we have this effect that computes this stuff. I don't love how all this lives outside of the viz function. So what I'm aiming for here is we want a function kind of like viz that we can call that will just render the color legend. And it's pretty much like that. We have something called render circles, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it renders the text as well. Let's do a little refactoring. Refactor this to rename render circles to render color legend, and also introduce two new modules, one that is responsible for rendering just the circles and another one that is responsible for rendering just the text, and invoke both of them from our new top level function called render color legend. Okay, let's see if it still works. It doesn't. Somehow the hovering is broken now. Can you please fix it? This is where I'm getting a little lazy. Okay, now it works again. On both the text and the circles. Great. So let's do another code review here. We have app that computes this centered data thing. And we call viz. And inside viz, we just call render color legend. Excellent. And here we render the data. But I'm wondering, where is this color legend, or the color scale rather, defined? This is not the pattern I would have hoped. So what we want to do is move the definition of the color scale into the viz function. Refactor to move the definition of the color scale out of the data and into the viz.js function and then pass it in to the various functions that need it using the options object pattern. Okay, still works. But now, in viz.js, this is where we call create color scale. Okay. Might as well just inline that. But hey, whatever. It's fine to split things up like this. So now we're passing in color scale. And then I don't think we actually need data. Please refactor this so that the only things we pass into the render color legend function are the color scale and the various parameters we need to position things. We do not want to be passing in the data array, and some of the logic that is currently in the outer app component can be moved to within render color legend. I think what it needs is an X coordinate, a Y coordinate, and a spacing option. All of these as configurable options defined in the options object passed in from viz.js. The transcription's not perfect, but let's see. Okay, still works. So let's get rid of this. Get rid of the concept of centered data and just compute whatever we need to inside of rendering the color legend. It's kind of silly. Yeah, this looks better. Okay. And it still works. So I think this is it. Render color legend. Now circle radius, let's make this an option. Make this an option we can pass into render color legend and use the default in destructuring. And then I'll paste that. And also there's a 2.5. Move the 2.5 hard-coded value into an option with a default similar to circle radius. Yeah, nice. Spacing multiplier. Same with text spacing. Add text spacing as an option with a destructuring default to render color legend. Great, great, great. Look at that. This looks nice and clean. I still don't like this centered data thing. Like, I feel like we should just be using... Can we make it so that we do not pass the data array into render color legend, but instead we derive the values from the color scale itself using the domain accessor and then passing the domain values through it to get the colors? That way we can avoid the whole concept of centered data deriving from the data. Maybe centered data could be called something else and could derive directly from the scale. Yeah, look at this. Okay, now this is good. This is good. We're not passing in the data directly here at all. And we're just accessing the domain values from the color scale and doing some computation to derive this like intermediate data set, which I kind of like. Kind of a nice clean pattern to derive a new array of data objects what do we have here? ID, name, X, and Y. So it just computes the X and Y here. That simplifies the implementation later because it can just reference those computed coordinates. And this is one pattern, where we render the circles and the text as separate things, but there is a world in which we could have group elements as parents, and then the circle and the text as children of that. But it doesn't really matter. 6 to 1, half a dozen, the other kind of thing. Okay, I think this is good to go. I'm going to release this now. Give it a custom URL, mark it as public, and save. Boom. Grab some coffee.